Before we get to the story, I'd like to say thanks so much for visiting my new channel. I'm going to be uploading cosmic horror related stories every single day. So if that sounds good, please drop a like and don't forget to subscribe. It means a lot, especially when just getting started. I hope you enjoy the story. I used to think the future was just the present that hadn't happened yet. An endless stretch of moments waiting their turn, lined up like dominoes, ready to fall one by one until the end of time. I don't think that anymore. I know now that the future is a real thing, a structure, a framework that holds everything together, that gives meaning to the present, that anchors us to what's coming next. And I know that something is taking it apart, piece by piece, year by year, working its way backward toward now. I don't know what happens when it reaches us, but I know it's coming, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. My name is Garrett Loomis. For the past 7 years, I've worked at a company called Endurance Storage Solutions in a city called Crestfield. It's a long-term preservation facility, the kind of place where people store things they want to last for generations. Time capsules, family heirlooms meant for grandchildren not yet born. Corporate archives meant to be opened at centennial celebrations. Scientific samples for experiments that won't be conducted for 50 years. My job is inventory management. I track what comes in, what goes out, and what stays. Thousands of items, each one with a storage location and a retrieval date. Some of those dates are decades away. Some are over a century in the future. Or at least they used to be. I always found the work meaningful. These items mattered to people. A grandfather's letter to a great-grandchild he'd never meet. A company's founding documents, preserved for employees who wouldn't be born for generations. Scientific data meant to bridge the gap between one century and the next. I was a custodian of the future, a guardian of hopes that hadn't been fulfilled yet. I took pride in that. I wish I'd never noticed when things started to change. It began about 3 months ago during a routine inventory check. I was walking the vaults in Section D, the area where we keep items with the longest retrieval dates. Century-scale storage. Things meant to last longer than anyone currently alive. Vault D17 was supposed to contain a collection of cultural artifacts from a museum consortium. Letters, photographs, personal effects from notable citizens. Retrieval date, 2157. The vault was empty. I checked my tablet. The inventory showed the items should be there. The climate control logs showed no irregularities. There was no record of anyone accessing the vault, but the items were gone. I went to the main database and searched for the entry. What I found made my stomach turn. The retrieval date had been updated, changed from 2157 to a status I'd never seen before. NA, no longer applicable. I found my supervisor, Nola, in her office. She'd been at Endurance for 25 years, longer than anyone else. If something strange was happening, she'd know about it. The items in D17, I said. They're gone. The system says the retrieval date is no longer applicable. What does that mean? Nola didn't look up from her computer. Those clients cancelled their contract, decided they didn't need long-term storage anymore. There's no cancellation paperwork. It was handled by corporate. Don't worry about it. But I did worry about it, because when I dug deeper into the records, I found that the cancellation had no date, no signature, no documentation at all. The items hadn't been returned to anyone. They hadn't been disposed of. They had simply stopped existing, and they weren't the only ones. Over the next few weeks, I noticed more discrepancies. Items with far future retrieval dates kept disappearing. First, it was things meant for the 22nd century, then the late 21st, then anything past 2060 or so. Each time, the records updated themselves automatically. No longer applicable. Contract voided. Retrieval date invalid. But there was never any paperwork, never any client requests, never any explanation. The items just ceased to exist. I brought my concerns to Nola repeatedly. Each time, she became more agitated, more dismissive. The system updates automatically based on client parameters. Don't worry about it. Long-term projections are always uncertain. Economic conditions change. Family situations change. Plans change. Focus on the items we have, not the ones we don't. But I caught her sometimes, late at night, when she thought everyone had gone home. Walking the vaults alone, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly as she touched the empty shelves where items used to be. She knew something was wrong. She just couldn't bring herself to admit it. A man named Curtis Embry started visiting the facility around that time. He was in his 50s, a successful businessman from what I could tell. He'd stored items for his great-grandchildren, letters, family heirlooms, financial documents, a legacy meant to span 4 generations. The thing was, his great-grandchildren didn't exist yet. His own children hadn't even had kids. He was planning for a future that was at least 60 or 70 years away. But the retrieval date on his items kept changing. The first time he came in, it was because the date had moved from 2090 to 2070. He was confused, but not alarmed. Maybe a system error, he figured. The second time, it had moved to 2050. He was frustrated now, demanding to speak with a manager. The third time, it had moved to 2040. He sat in my office with a look of hollow confusion, holding the updated contract in his hands. "I don't understand," he said. "I paid for 100 years. I specified 100 years. Why does the system keep changing?" I didn't have an answer. I told him I'd look into it. I told him there must be some kind of technical glitch. But when I checked the system, there was no glitch. The retrieval date had simply been updated. No explanation, no authorization. The last time Curtis Embry visited, the retrieval date had moved to next year. He didn't yell, didn't demand answers. He just sat in the lobby for a long time, staring at the contract with eyes that had lost something essential. "There's not going to be any great-grandchildren," he said quietly. "Is there?" I didn't know how to respond. "I can feel it," he continued. "Can't you? Something's wrong. Something's ending. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it in my bones." He left without saying goodbye. I never saw him again. When I searched for his records a week later, there was no trace of him in our system. No contract, no stored items, no indication he had ever been a client at all. I started paying attention to the news after that, looking for patterns, looking for signs that what was happening at Endurance wasn't isolated. I found them everywhere. A 100-year bond program dissolved Without explanation, investors quietly paid out decades early, the whole structure dismantled as if it had never been intended to last. A Millennium Seed vault in Northern Europe suddenly closed. The official reason was budget constraints, but the vault had been designed to survive for centuries, funded by an endowment meant to last forever. Budget constraints didn't make sense. University endowments were being liquidated. Trusts meant to support institutions in perpetuity were being cashed out. Long-term research projects were being cancelled, their data archived and forgotten. Everywhere I looked, the far future was being abandoned. Not because of economic conditions, not because of policy changes, because something in the collective unconscious knew it wasn't coming. A woman named Dr. Alma Hendricks contacted the facility about 6 weeks after I first noticed the discrepancies. She was a physicist at a research institution about 100 miles from Crestfield. She'd had scientific samples stored at Endurance for a 50-year experiment, temperature-controlled specimens meant to be studied by researchers who hadn't been born yet. The samples had disappeared. But that wasn't what scared her. What scared her was the pattern she'd found in other long-term scientific projects. Experiments that were supposed to run for centuries were being terminated. Data meant to be collected in the future was vanishing from projections. The mathematical constants that depended on future measurements for their validation were becoming unstable. She came to the facility on a Tuesday evening, after hours, when the building was mostly empty. I met her in my office and listened as she explained what she believed was happening. "The future isn't just time that hasn't occurred yet," she said. "It's a structure, a framework. Every moment that's going to happen exists in potential, held in place by the moments before and after it." She drew a diagram on my whiteboard, a line stretching from left to right, dots at regular intervals. The present is stable because it's anchored by the future, by what's coming next. We experience time as a flow, as a movement from one moment to the next. But that flow depends on there being a next moment to move into. She drew an X through the dots at the far right of the line. Something is dismantling that framework, erasing future moments one by one. And as the future disappears, the present becomes less stable, less certain. She looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. Imagine a bridge. The far end is gone, then the middle. Eventually, you're standing on a plank that leads nowhere, and then the plank disappears too. I asked her how she knew this, what evidence she had. She showed me data on her laptop, charts and graphs tracking what she called the horizon of the future, the farthest point that seemed real, that people could plan for, that had any weight or presence in the collective consciousness. A year ago, that horizon extended centuries. People built institutions meant to last for generations. They made plans that stretched into the distant future. They believed, on some fundamental level, that the future would be there to receive their hopes. Now the horizon was shrinking. 6 months ago, items with retrieval dates 50 years out were stable, she said. Now anything past 18 months is disappearing. The collapse is accelerating. What's causing it? Dr. Hendricks was quiet for a long moment. I don't know for certain, but I have a hypothesis. She pulled up another image on her laptop, a mathematical model I couldn't begin to understand. The universe is winding down, not through entropy, not in the way physics predicts, through something else. Something outside the normal flow of time has taken an interest in our reality. She looked at me, and there was fear in her eyes. We're being consumed, Mr. Loomis. Not from the past forward, the way we experience time. From the future backward. Something is eating the moments that haven't happened yet, erasing them, unmaking them. Why? I don't know. Maybe we're food. Maybe we're a mistake being corrected. Maybe we're just in the way of something larger. She closed her laptop. The why doesn't matter. What matters is that it's happening, and it's getting faster. What happens when it reaches the present, when there's no future left? Dr. Hendricks stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting, the sky turning orange and red. Everything ends, she said quietly. Not with destruction, with absence. The present is only real because there's a next moment waiting. Take away that next moment, and the present has nowhere to go, nothing to become. She turned to look at me. We won't die. We'll just stop, like a movie that reaches the end of the reel, one frame, and then nothing. As the weeks passed, I noticed changes in the world around me. People stopped making long-term plans. Conversations that used to include phrases like next year or in a few years became focused on the immediate. Tomorrow, tonight, the next hour. Some people became despairing, hollow-eyed, wandering through their days without purpose. They couldn't explain why. They felt so hopeless. They just knew on some deep level that something was wrong. Others became manic, frantic, desperate to experience everything right now. They quit their jobs and spent their savings and told everyone they loved how they felt, as if they sensed there wouldn't be a later. The birth rate dropped. I read about it in the news, saw the statistics that no one could explain. People just stopped wanting children, not consciously, not as a decision. They simply lost the desire to create new life. Why bring a child into a world that's running out of future? And then people started disappearing. Not dying, disappearing. I noticed it first at work. A co-worker named Dennis, who sat 3 desks away from me. One day, he was there. The next day, his desk was empty. Not cleared out, empty. As if it had always been empty. I asked Nola about him. She looked at me with confusion. Who's Dennis? No one remembered him. No one had any record of him. I searched the personnel files and found nothing. I searched my own memory and found gaps. Places where Dennis should have been, but wasn't anymore. It happened again and again. Co-workers, neighbors, people I passed on the street. One by one, they vanished. Not into thin air, into absence, into the growing void where the future used to be. I think I understand why. If someone's future was erased, if the moments they were going to experience simply ceased to exist, then their present had no anchor, nothing to move into, nothing to become. So they stopped existing too. The system updated itself. Reality rewrote itself to accommodate the absence, and everyone forgot that the missing people had ever been there at all. Everyone except me. I don't know why I remember. Maybe because I'd been paying attention to the disappearances from the beginning. Maybe because my job was tracking things that were meant to last, and that gave me some sensitivity to things that didn't. Or maybe I was just next in line, and the only reason I still existed was because the collapse hadn't reached my future yet. Nola finally admitted what she'd known all along. It was late at night, the facility empty except for the two of us. She found me in the vaults, walking the rows of empty shelves that used to hold decades of stored hopes. "I've been watching this happen for over a year," she said. "At first, it was just the far future items, centuries away. I told myself it was a glitch, a database error." She walked beside me, her footsteps echoing in the empty space. Then it accelerated, decades of stored items vanishing in weeks. I started falsifying records, covering up the discrepancies, trying to maintain the illusion that everything was normal. Why? Because I didn't want to believe it. I still don't want to believe it. She stopped and looked at me. "But I can't pretend anymore, not after what I've seen." She showed me a chart on her tablet. The current horizon of the future, tracked over the past several months. 6 months ago, items with the retrieval dates 50 years out were stable. 3 months ago, the threshold dropped to 20 years. Last month, it was 5 years. She swiped to the latest data. Now, anything past 18 months is disappearing. By my calculations, the horizon will reach 1 year within a few weeks, then 6 months, then 3. And then, Nola didn't answer. She didn't need to. I went to the facility one last time this morning. Most of the vaults are empty now. Items scheduled for retrieval even a month from now have vanished. The building itself feels less solid than it used to, less real, like it's waiting to disappear too. I walked the rows of empty shelves, remembering what used to be there. A grandfather's letter to a great-grandson not yet born. A company's founding documents meant for a centennial celebration that will never come. Scientific samples for experiments that no one will ever conduct. All those hopes for the future. All those bridges to moments that will never arrive. Gone. I don't know what's eating the future. Dr. Hendrix's theories were just theories. She disappeared 2 weeks ago, along with everyone else who understood what was happening. But I know one thing. Whatever is consuming tomorrow doesn't care about us. We're not being punished. We're not being judged. We're not part of some plan or purpose or cosmic justice. We're just being erased, like words being deleted from a page, like film being unwound past the point of recording, from the end of the story toward the beginning. Soon, there won't be enough story left to hold any meaning. I'm writing this account knowing it probably won't survive. If the future collapses completely, the past will follow. There won't be anyone to read this. There won't be a later for these words to exist in. But I'm writing it anyway, because right now, in this moment, I still exist. These words still have meaning. The act of putting them down still matters, even if it won't matter for long. I can feel the horizon getting closer, feel the edge of existence creeping toward me. The news has stopped talking about next year. People have stopped making plans for next month. Conversations are focused on this week, this day, this hour. Tomorrow might not come. I hope if it doesn't, that I won't feel it, that it will be like falling asleep, a gentle transition into absence without the terror of knowing. But I suspect it won't be like that. I suspect the last moment will feel like standing on the edge of an abyss, watching the ground disappear beneath your feet, knowing there's nowhere left to fall. And then nothing. Not darkness, not emptiness, not even the absence of things. Just the absence of anything to come next. We always assumed the future would be there, assumed that tomorrow would arrive, that next year would come, that our descendants would inherit the world we were building. We never considered that the future could simply stop existing, that something could erase it from the end backward, like rewinding a tape past the point of recording. I don't know if anyone will read this. I don't know if there will be anyone left to read. But if you're reading this, if you exist in a moment after the one I'm writing in, then maybe the collapse stopped. Maybe the future survived. Maybe something I can't imagine happened to reverse the erasure and restore what was lost. Or maybe you're reading this in one of the last moments that will ever exist. Maybe the horizon is almost here. Maybe tomorrow, for you, is already gone. If that's the case, I want you to know the future was real once. It was full of moments waiting to happen, people waiting to exist, hopes waiting to be fulfilled. And something took it all away, one tomorrow at a time, working backward toward the present, toward you, toward now. I'm going to stop writing. There's nothing more to say. I'm going to sit by the window and watch the sun set. I'm going to try not to wonder if it will rise again. And I'm going to hope, in whatever way I still can, that this isn't the end, that somewhere beyond the horizon, there's still a tomorrow waiting, even though I know deep down that there isn't. The future is collapsing backward, and I'm running out of present. This document was discovered on a computer terminal at an abandoned storage facility outside the former city of Crestfield. The facility shows no signs of recent occupation. Climate control systems are operational, but all storage vaults are empty. No records exist of a company called Endurance Storage Solutions. No records exist of a city called Crestfield. Satellite imagery of the region shows only empty land where buildings should be. The author of this document, Garrett Loomis, does not appear in any database. No birth certificate, no employment records, no evidence that such a person ever existed. Analysis of the document's metadata indicates it was created recently. However, the exact date cannot be determined. The timestamp field contains an error. Invalid date, no corresponding future moment found. Researchers have noted a disturbing trend in recent months. Long-term planning has become increasingly difficult. Projects with distant completion dates are being abandoned. Birth rates have declined sharply. Some researchers have begun to experience what they describe as horizon anxiety, a persistent sense that the future is somehow closer than it should be, shorter, more limited. No explanation for these phenomena has been found. This document has been archived for future study. Note: the archive system has flagged this document with a warning. The retrieval date field could not be populated. When queried, the system returned an unexpected response. No future date available. Please select from remaining moments. The meaning of this error is under investigation. Investigation timeline: unknown.